everybody, it's Matt from the house, and in this video we're going to show you how to mount the Union Explorer splitboard bindings to your splitboard. Let's check this out. Alright, Union's got a pretty cool interface when it comes to their splitboard binding. So they've got the Explorer, and then there's the Explorer FC, which is the super light version, but both of them mount the exact same way. And the really cool thing about this binding is that it obviously looks more like a regular binding, and it performs, just like a regular Union binding. And it actually, when you first open up the box, it comes with this, which when you open it up, you'll see this big kit. Don't get overwhelmed. There's a lot of stuff in here, but the really cool thing about it is that it actually comes with everything you need to mount this to a split board, or also to mount it to a standard board that doesn't split. And I'll tell you why that's important here in a minute. Okay, so right off the bat in this package, you're gonna find a bunch of pieces and parts. For the split board, it's pretty easy. You're gonna use one side, and basically they should be packed up. And if you see these discs here that kind of look like a full disc that's been split in half, that's probably the side that you're gonna be using the hardware from. So we're gonna need the split apart discs. There's gonna be 4 of those, 2 for each foot. You're also going to need these metal pieces that are kind of look like a split apart disc too. You're going to need 2 of these per foot, and they match up nice and easy, but this is what we're going to mount to the board first. And then we're going to need a little bit of hardware. So there's this bag that has these 6 little tiny short screws in it. That's going to be for our toe clip, so we can go ahead and set those aside. And then we're gonna have another bag of screws that's gonna have some shorter screws and some longer screws. And that's what we're gonna need to get the binding mounted for snowboard mode. So right off the bat, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna take those metal plates. You're gonna go ahead and set them on the board. And then you can use a tape measure to kind of measure your stance, basically measure from the middle to the middle, make sure that your stance width is where you want it. And then from there, we're gonna take this tool. This tool is pretty cool. It just looks like a little, rectangle that has these 4 little bumps on the bottom. And what those are gonna do is those are actually gonna go in these screw holes, 2 on each side. And what this is, this spaces these discs the correct distance apart. So 1, you can split the board apart, but 2, also to make sure that when these pucks get mounted on top, that they're in the correct positioning too. Because if they're too wide or too narrow, you're not gonna be able to get the binding on there. So very important to actually have that alignment tool set in those 2 pieces of metal. And you'll notice that when I move this around, is that it basically moves like it's one piece. So once we get that set, you're gonna go ahead and find your 4 holes, and then we're gonna go ahead and get the screws mounted. So we're going to use the shorter screws from this bunch. The longer screws are going to be used when we mount the pucks. So go ahead and drop in 4 of your shorter screws, and then we're going to go ahead and get those things tightened up. So when we do put them in there, we're going to go ahead and get them started. They'll go in nice and easy. Never force a screw into an insert. You should never have to do that. Once you get all the screws started and it's on there but not tightened, now it's time to tighten them down. When you do tighten these things down, you don't have to crank them within an inch of their life. What I like to do is kind of get them all tight, kind of just with my fingers, and then I'll go ahead and give them all one last little crank with a good tight grip on the screwdriver. And then you go ahead and pop your alignment tool out, and this is ready for the pucks. All right, now when we mount the pucks, this here is how we're going to get our angle on our binding. So it's pretty easy. I always say start with 1 and then do the second one. It can make things a lot easier. So you're gonna go ahead and set that puck on there, and you're gonna see those screws that the alignment tool came out of, those screw holes. That's what we're actually gonna send these longer screws into. So we're gonna go ahead and line up the 2 holes within that channel. And then on here, you're gonna notice there's a little notch at the top here that's kind of telling you where the angles are going to line up on your tiny little washer piece here. So if you set that at 0, it's going to be 0. But let's say you like 15 on your front foot. So this is what I like to do. Set that down, obviously with it at 0, and then just so you know which way to actually move the washer, you're going to go ahead and turn it in the angle that you want to go. Obviously, if we're right foot forward, we're going to turn it that way, and then take that washer and go back with it so they line up with the holes. Then from there, you can kind of look, and every one of these notches is 3 degrees. So right now I've got it set from 0. There's 12 on here. Each one of these is 3, so we know that the next one is 15. And then once we've got that set, now we can go ahead and put the long screws in. So again, get these things started. They will go into the holes on the plates, the metal plates, very, very easily. And then we're gonna go ahead and take this back one and we're gonna do the same thing, but we're gonna actually rotate the washer in the opposite direction that the one in the front went. And we're gonna go ahead and get that set so it's at 15. We're one notch beyond the 12. And then once we've got that set, again, now we're gonna go ahead and put our screw in. And again, just get them both started, nice and easy. And then go ahead and lock them down. And same thing, get them good and snug. You don't have to get them crazy, crazy tight, but you do want to make sure that they are nice and snug. And this is a good thing too, is every time you go ride, make sure to grab your plates, grab your pucks, make sure everything is snug before you go ride, make sure something hasn't, come loose on you. Set those aside for the other bindings. So now that the plates are ready to go, the binding, super, super easy to put on. So we're actually gonna go ahead and it's got this pin system through the front. We're gonna flip this pin, it kind of locks underneath this little sleeve on the side, slide the pin out. Now we're gonna take the binding and we're actually gonna turn the binding and you'll see these notches underneath. Those are gonna go into kind of this V-shaped negative area on the discs. And then once we get that there, now we're gonna go ahead and spin the binding and turn it. And as we twist it, it's gonna snug up and it's really gonna pull the board together. And you're basically gonna pull that or turn that until it won't turn anymore. Once you've got that set, you know it's at 15 degrees. We're gonna go ahead and take our pin, we're gonna insert it with the lever on the side here pointed straight up. We're gonna make sure that goes all the way in, and then you're just gonna go ahead and shift it down into the sleeve on the side and lock it into place. And now the binding is 100% ready to ride. Okay, so once you've got those pucks set, now we need to mount the toe clips for touring mode. And this one is super, super easy. You basically just take the toe clip, you're gonna go ahead and line up the 3 screws, get that bag with those really, really short screws, and we're gonna mount it exactly like we mounted the pucks. Get those screws each started. All right, now that we've got them all started, we're just gonna go ahead and give them all one last little crank just to make sure that they're nice and snug, and that's ready to go. So you'll notice that there's actually 2 inserts in the back on this board. This is common on pretty much all split boards, but with the union bindings, they actually don't have a piece that goes in the back. And what that's for is some of the other bindings, when you flip down your walking wire in the back to kind of lift up the binding, it's basically a cradle for that to sit in. However, the union bindings, we're gonna pull that pin, we're gonna spin this thing, and then when we flip that down, you'll notice this lever is really big and beefy and it's got a rubber stand on it, so it actually doesn't need a piece in the back. So again, don't be confused if those screws are there and there's nothing in them if you have the union bindings. If you have some other kind of binding, there's probably gonna be a piece that mounts in the back. So once you pulled your binding off, super easy, just like we're putting the binding on the discs, we're gonna go ahead and set the binding so it's on the toe piece. You line up the holes, slide the pin in, make sure it goes through all the way, and then you go ahead and lock it into position. And there's a little spot right in here where it actually kind of locks in so it can't come out. Really cool thing about this is that your boot's gonna be over that, so that can't come loose, it can't accidentally come out. Likewise on the side, once it's mounted, that pin is locked in and there's no way, it's actually kind of got a little shield around it, so there's no way for it to actually get knocked out and accidentally come loose. But again, once that's ready to go, the binding's ready for touring mode. And if you are walking around, it's a little bit flatter, you can flip that piece, and there's some foam on the bottom there too, so it's not gonna damage the top of your board. All right, so pretty simple, and like I said, pretty cool system that they have and how you get this thing mounted. And you'll remember I was talking earlier in the video about the other side of this little pouch and all the extra hardware that comes with it. And basically what that is it has solid metal plates that you mount to your regular snowboard that's not a split board. And it also comes with these discs too, and extra hardware so you can mount basically the split board bindings to a standard board. Why might you want to do that? Union has an approach ski, and a lot of people are starting to use those, or drift boards. And basically with those, you still need to be able to take your binding off your board easily, and you still need to mount it to those drift boards or those approach skis with this system, with the toe clips and the pin. So that's why that is included. Some people have these bindings and they just like the way they ride. And the really cool thing about that is if you have a split board and you're using this to mount to your regular board, it literally takes you seconds to pull the pin, take take the binding off and lock it onto your regular board. So it can make swapping your bindings a little easier if you just like to ride these on your non-split board as well. But if you've got any questions beyond what we talked about in the video, leave some comments down below. We're on there every single day trying to answer your questions. You know, we want to make sure we get you into some rad gear, but most importantly, we want to make sure that it's actually going to fit you and your riding style and you're able to use it properly and safely. Also, make sure to like, subscribe, and definitely get that notification bell on too so you can find out when all the new videos drop. And yeah, whether you're split boarding or you're riding your split board bindings on a regular board, get your board mounted up and get out and ride, because any day riding is a good day riding.